ലോകജാലകത്തിലൂടെ നമ്മുടെ ജീവിത പങ്കാളിയെ കണ്ടെത്താൻ
വേൾഡ് മാട്രിമോണി.
The logic behind corporate strategy is the one of synergy and diversification. That is, synergies arise when each of brand food outlet does better because they have common ownership and can share valuable inputs into their businesses. Specifically, synergy exists when the interaction of two or more activities, such as those in a business, create a combined effect greater than the sum of their individual effects. The idea is that the combination of certain businesses is stronger than they would be individually because they either do things more cheaply or of higher quality as a result of their coordinations under a common owner. Diversification, in contrast, is where an organization participates in multiple businesses that are in some way distinct from each other, as Taco Bell is from Pizza Hut, for instance, just as with a portfolio of stock. The purpose of diversification is to spread out risk and opportunity over a larger set of business. Some may be high growth, some slow growth, or declining. Some may perform worse during recession, while others perform better. Sometimes the business can be very different, such as when fashion sunglass maker Mao Jim diversified into property and casualty insurance through its merger with RLI Corporation. Perhaps more than a coincidence, RLI was founded some 60 years earlier as Replacement Plans International, later changed to its abbreviation RLI, in line with its broader insurance product offerings, with the primary business of providing insurance for replacement contract license. There are three major diversification strategies. One, concentric diversification, where the new business produces products that are technically similar to the company's current product, but the appeal to a new consumer. Strategic input. So what are the input into strategizing? At the most basic level, you will need to gather information and conduct analysis about the internal characteristics of the organization and the external market condition. This means an internal appraisal and an external appraisal. On the external side, you will want to gain a sense of the organization's strengths and weaknesses. On the external side, you will want to develop some sense of the organization's opportunities and threats. Together, these four inputs into strategizing are often called SWOT. Analyzing, which stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and strengths. See this SWOT analyzing figure. It does not matter if you start this appraisal process internally or externally, but you will quickly see that the two need to mesh eventually. At the very least, the strategy should leverage strength to take advantage of opportunities and mitigate threats, while the downside consequences of weaknesses are minimized or managed. SWOT was developed by Ken Andrew in the early 1970s. An assessment of strengths and weaknesses occurs as a part of organizational analysis. That is, it is an audit of the company's internal workings, which are relatively easier to control than outside factors. Conversely, examining opportunities and threats is the part of environmental analysis. Company must look outside of the organizations to determine opportunities and threats over which it has lesser control. Andrew's strategy model that preceded SWOT asks four basic questions about company and its environment. What can we do? What do we want to do? What might we do? And what do others expect us to do? Strengths and weaknesses. A good starting point for strategizing is an assessment of what an organization does well and what it does less well. In general, good strategy take advantage of strength and minimize the disadvantages posed by any weaknesses. Michael Jordan, for instance, is an excellent all-around athlete. He excels in baseball and golf, but his athletic skills show best in basketball. As with Jordan, when you can identify certain strengths that set an organization well apart from actual and potential competitors, that strength is considered a source of competitive advantage. The hardest thing for an organization to do is to develop its competitive advantage into a sustainable competitive advantage where the organization's strength cannot be easily duplicated or imitated by other firms nor made redundant or less valuable by changes in the external environment. Opportunities and threats on the basis of what you just learned about competitive advantage and sustainable competitive advantage, you can see why some understanding of the external environment is a critical input into strategy. Opportunities assess that external attractive factor that represent the reason for a business to exist and prosper. There are external to the business what opportunities exist in its market or in the environment from which manager might hope that organization will benefit. Threats include factors beyond their control that could place the strategy or the business at risk. There are also external manager typically have no control over them but may benefit by having contingency plan to address them if they should occur. 5.1 Strategic Management in the POLC Framework. Learning Objectives 1. Be able to define strategic management. 2. Understand how strategic management fits in the POLC framework. 3. Broadly identify the inputs for strategy formulations. What is strategic management? As you already know that the POLC framework starts with planning, you might also know that planning is related to but not synonymous with strategic management. Strategic management reflects what a firm is doing to achieve its mission and vision as seen by its achievement of specific goals and objectives. A more formal definition tells us that the strategic management process is the process by which a firm manages the formulation and implementation of its strategy. The strategic management process is the coordinate means by which an organization achieves its goals and objectives. Others have described strategy as the pattern of resource allocation choices and organization's arrangement that result from managerial decision making. Planning and strategy formulation, sometimes called business planning or strategic planning. How much in common sense formulation help determine what the firm should do. Strategic implementation tells managers how they should go about putting the desired strategy into action. The concept of strategy is relevant to all types of organizations, from large public companies like GE to religious organizations to political parties. Strategic management in the POLC framework. If vision and mission are the heart and soul of planning in the POLC framework, then strategic, particularly strategy formulation, would be the brain. The following figure summarize where strategy, formulation, strategizing, and implementation fit into planning and other components of POLC. We will focus primarily on the strategy formulation aspect of strategic management because implementation is essentially organizing, leading, and controlling POLC components. You see that the planning starts with vision and mission and concludes with setting goals and objectives. In between is the critical role played by strategy. Specifically, a strategy captures and communicates how vision and mission will be achieved and which goal and objective shown that then right path to achieving them. At this point, even in the terms of strategy formulation, there are two aspects of strategizing that you should recognize. The first, corporate strategy, answers strategy question related to what business or business should be in and how does our business help us compete in business, why, and vice versa. In many ways, corporate strategy considered an organization to be a portfolio of businesses, resources, capabilities, or activities. You are probably familiar with McDonald's, for instance, and their ubiquitous Golden Arches fast food outlet. However, you may be less likely to know that the McDonald's owned the slightly upscale burrito vendor Chipotle for several years as well. The McDonald's corporate strategy helped its managers evaluate and answer questions about whether it made sense for McDonald's set of business to include different restaurants such as McDonald's and Chipotle, while other food services companies have multiple outlets. Yum! Brands, for example, owns A&W, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, Long John Silver's, and Kentucky Fried Chicken. McDonald determined that the one brand McDonald was a better strategy for it in the future and sold off Chipotle in 2006. The following figure provides a graphic guide to this kind of planning.